So here we are in the al fresco working space, looking at this old telly. Now, why, you may ask yourself, and is indeed, as do I on occasions. Dogs need to get in on the act as well. Now, many years ago, I used to collect old tellies and take them apart for various pieces, and obviously over the years I've amassed a collection of screws and nuts and bolts and washers and all sorts of hardware and aluminium. And at this time, I hadn't seen a telly by the side of the road for months, if not even years. So I thought this might be the last opportunity to take a look inside one of these guys and see what parts we can recover. Now, safety is paramount when messing around with the TV sets. No idea the last time this thing was powered on, but with a tube of this size, I think that's a 32-inch screen, 25, at least 30,000 volts possibly, is going to ruin your day if you get on the wrong end of it. So I'm going to show you how to discharge the tube, and also you'll need safety glasses because there is a remote possibility that when messing around inside you could knock something and the tube could implode, and you really don't want that. So most importantly, before we go digging around in the guts of this thing, is to discharge the tube in case there's any residual voltage on it. Again, we have no idea when this thing was last powered up, but you don't want to get on the wrong end of 25 or 30,000 volts. To do that, we need a few things. We need a screwdriver and a couple of crock clips on a wire. Now, even the choice of screwdriver is important. You need one with a well insulated handle. At first sight, you might think, yeah, that's a good option, but when you look at it, the metal goes all the way through, and you really don't want to be touching that when you're touching that. And last but not least, some visors. As I say, the risk of implosion is extremely rare, but better to be on the safe side. So what we need to do is to find an earthing point for one end of the crock clips. If we follow this is a metal braid which is earthing the outside of the tube, and it goes to the very substantial bolts that are holding the thing together. So if we clip one end of the lead to this bolt, then that will be well earthed. And belt and braces if you want to wear a glove, and good rubber-soled shoes, and put one hand in your pocket so you're not tempted to touch anything else in the process. So now we need to get underneath this suction cup where the high tension lead comes in, and listen or watch for any pops or sparks. And I've got that wedged underneath the cup there, and inside you will see that there is two prongs. It's difficult to get the camera on them, but I haven't heard anything. Obviously, if the thing had been powered up recently, you would hear a pop as the tube discharged, and indeed, if that happens, it's best to leave the tube again for another half an hour or so, and then get back in there and do the same again, just in case there's any residual build-up on there. Now we can lift the HT off. Now I can show you what's under there. It's just those two clips that engage in the top of the tube, and now that that's safely discharged, we can check it again with our screwdriver. There's nothing there, and you can't see it, but there's nothing coming out on the bottom there. Another sort of fallacy when working on these things, people think that if they on the end of the glass tube where it's actually evacuated, there's a little glass nipple. People think that if you break that off, which takes the vacuum off of the tube, then that will also discharge it, but that is not the case. Even if the tube has been damaged or is vented in that way, it can still hold a significant charge. So don't be fooled by that. So now it's safe to work on. We can get in there and dig around a bit more. Just a couple of observations. This black wire here is very thick. It's actually several turns of quite high gauge copper wire. It's quite valuable. So even if you're going to take these things apart for scrap, obviously there's a lot of copper in the deflection coils, but there's also a lot of copper in here, and that's worth saving for other projects. This is known as the degaussing coil. Gauss, or Carl Friedrich to his friends, German mathematician primarily, who gave his name to the mathematical unit for magnetic flux, the Gauss. And he also did some practical stuff in conjunction with a chum called Weber, I think it was. They actually developed a magnetic telegraph to send signals between an observatory and somewhere. Anyway, we digress. So now I'm going to get in and take some of these things apart, and I will show you the results of that next. So I ask you to forgive the handheld nature of this last piece, but what have we gained? Well, we can see up in the unit there we have a stereo pair of speakers, even a little rudimentary crossover there, so perhaps a Bluetooth speaker project coming there. We have obviously the coils that we can take off to recover the copper from the deflection coils. Here on the main circuit board, for a model of this age, it's actually 2002, there's a high level of integration. So it's a few discrete components, many capacitors. Over on this side we have 3 regulators, 2 7805s, 1 7808, various switches, press buttons that we could use, maybe useful for Arduino projects. There's also an infrared receiver chip there on that board. Phono connectors and a 3.5mm jack. Various bits of wire and cabling and connectors that will come in useful at some point, I'm sure. Being the consummate Packrat that I am, there are various sheets of aluminium. There's the chip here, which is for the audio amplifier, and there's quite a large FET on that side. So various bits and pieces. As I say, the screws and connectors always come in useful for something. Just a few passing shots now. This is the inside of the degaussing coil, and you can see there's a goodly amount of copper there. I would think the whole coil is somewhere in the order of at least 2 meters long. 2 meters? Yeah. Also, that was switched by a relay, so over there in the power supply department there's a relay as well. So there's quite a few components, obviously not as many as back in the day when the whole thing was full of discretes, but still a worthwhile exercise to take apart. This copper could be used for making inductors for various projects, and with people's pensions being worth a lot less these days, you could even squirrel it away against a rainy day. I hope you found that interesting. Please comment and like and subscribe.